Ooh, ooh, ooh. The Center for Spiritually Integrated Arts, a beloved community we choose to be, where art, life, and spirituality connects you and me. Science of mind and spirit, the foundation we teach and live. Love, joy, and belonging are the gifts we have to give. Our consciousness, our being, open at the bottom, open at the top. We're not simply one with God, but we are it itself. It will never stop. SIA, our spiritual center, family and home. It's where we come to practice and remember there is only one life, one mind, one infinite, eternal, self-existent. 'Cause we pause, embodying all that we are. We shine like a glorious star. Our consciousness, our being, open at the bottom, open at the top. We're not simply one with God, but we are it itself. It will never stop. SIA, our spiritual center, family and home. It's where we come to practice and remember there is only one. Spirituality, it's our way of life. We value laughter, truth, and justice. We express artistry as our living practice. So come and join us at SIA. Know you found a community that will love you every day.
Namaste, greetings and blessings, and welcome to the Center for Spiritually Integrated Arts. This is our Sunday message, and I am Reverend Dr. Raymont Anderson, the founder and spiritual director of this center. And I invite you to watch not only this Sunday message, but any of our archived messages. I invite you to join any classes or events that we have going on. I invite you to reach out and email if you have any questions. Questions about this community, questions about me, questions about what we do, or questions about this science of mind and spirit, liberation theology that we practice and teach. And if by chance you find yourself seeking beloved community with other like-minded beings, even if you already belong, are a member of another community, church, or center, you are more than free to have multiple affiliations wherever you are fed and find community. You are invited. And lastly, feel free to click like, subscribe, and share this or any other message or announcements with others in your circle. And with that, much appreciation, love, and blessings. Enjoy the message. Hello, February 15th. How are you? Huh? Yes, yes. I know, right? But we can talk about that later. Today, we're talking about the edge of the known. Yeah, insert dun 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 dun. So there's this thing called the comfort zone. And oftentimes, this comfort zone thing is so comfortable, we won't venture beyond it. We won't think beyond it. We won't imagine beyond it. We won't, because we're comfortable. And the wild thing about that is sometimes the comfort is actually abuse. And we get so comfortable with the abuse, it's normalized, that we will stay in an abusive relationship, stay at an abusive place of employment, elect an abusive, and it becomes so comfortable and so normalized that we have no idea what freedom and love actually mean. So, what exists beyond this comfortable place? What exists beyond the familiar? What exists beyond even our ability to predict a certain outcome? What exists beyond this realm of things that we currently know? We currently know that war exists. But what exists beyond war? Peace on earth? Is that possible? We're going to talk about some of this stuff. But this week, we are going to explore some of the shared unconscious and shared conscious stories that we tell ourselves, that we tell each other, some of the shared beliefs that we tell ourselves and tell each other, and some of the truths, whether they're actual truths or perceived truths, that don't just live beneath our awareness, but they are things that drive, they're things that motivate, things that move us, move our awareness, which means by default, that's what's moving our lives. So how exactly do we go to the edge of the known? How do we lean into the chaos and lean into the mystery, lean into this sacred unknown in order to change things? And how do we do that, especially when we don't like the neighborhood of the unknown. We don't like the neighborhood of but that's uncomfortable. And yet that's precisely where our collective healing is going to come from. There is no place where we must go for the silence. There is no particular posture that we must assume. There is no formula that we must repeat. We enter this inner tabernacle by whatever route we may. Simply, Dr. Holmes is letting us know that whatever we do, wherever we are, we have the opportunity to go to that space of infinite knowing. We don't need to light incense or candle. We don't need to be in full lotus. We don't need all of those things. We don't need this crystal or that crystal. We don't need that stuff. Just your mind your body, your breath right now. He goes on to say, in order to come into the consciousness of our own divinity, we lay aside every fear or doubt or worry, and we enter into the silent, peaceful contemplation that the Spirit of the living God is within us all, the power there is, all the presence there is, and all the life there is. You know what? Actually, before we go on, I'm going to be back for a second. Bring it back up. So I didn't do a formal remix of this one, but for the sake of conversation, let's do an impromptu one. In order to come into the consciousness of our own divinity, to recognize that we are already divine, we discern between this life-affirming fear, which is normal and necessary, and the non-life-affirming fear, life-affirming doubt, and non-life-affirming doubt. Worry, there is no life-affirming version of worry. We lay aside all that is non-life affirming with the fear, the doubt, and the worry, and we go to that place of infinite knowing, this peaceful contemplation that that which God is, the one life, is precisely what we are. Not simply within us, but it is all that we are. And that all that it is as us, all of the power there is as us, all of the presence there is as us, all of the life there is as us, right here and right now. Now, silence. There is no speaking in the library. Shh. What if I told you that, we've been talking about silence, enter into the silence and silence and silence and silence and silence. What if I told you that it's less about silence and that it's actually more about awareness and presence? And yes, there's a specific reason why I'm saying this. Any idea what it is? No? Let me share. During the ACT UP movement, silence equals death. To be silent about HIV and AIDS equals death. Silence is the voice of complicity. Dr. King reminds us, in the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. Dietrich Bonhoeffer says, silence in the face of evil is evil itself. God will not hold us guiltless. Not to speak is to speak. Not to act is to act. And Holocaust survivor Elie Wiesel always takes sides. Neutrality helps the oppressor, never the victim. Silence encourages the tormentor, never the tormented. The point being, there is life-affirming silence in meditation. While walking and enjoying the air and the warmth and the breeze and nature in a park. And then there is non-life affirming silence, which is referenced here. Very often I hear people reference the non-life affirming silence as though that's what New Thought should be. Just pray about it. That's this silence, which makes us complicit in the harm that we are witnessing in the world. There is nothing about New Thought that says we should be silent. Breathe. Advisory board, board of trustees, board of directors, a tale of three boards. Wrong kind of boards, bro. Wrong kind of boards. So what exactly are we talking about then? If we're not talking about, okay, so a tale of three boards, we got that, but, oh, chalkboard, dry erase board, smart board. Oh, I see what you're doing here. A tale of three boards. There was a time when I was teaching at a public school, Arundel High School in Maryland. And we were switching from using chalkboards and dry erase boards to smart boards. And there were many of the old school instructors who resisted. And they resisted vehemently. They were mad. Just the idea of, you can still write, you can still erase, you can still do a lot of the things chalkboard, dry erase board, they're very similar. The smart board, however, is a computer which gives you the ability to do so much more than the other two can do. And yet, because the other two were the known, people did not want to go to the edge of the unknown, to the edge of the known, and enter into the unknown. I know how to pick up chalk and write on the board. I know how to pick up a marker, pop the cap, and write on the dry erase board. I know how to do that. This other thing, I don't understand how it works. And because I don't understand how it works already, I don't want to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm keeping where are you going with my chalk? Bring my chalk back. And some of the instructors, there's no evidence to say they did it on purpose, but some of them even took a dry erase marker and wrote on the smart board as though it was a dry erase board. It's like, is that their way of being passive aggressive and resist? I don't know, but it made a lot of people mad because the amount of money it takes to clean that. Ooh, yeah. But the whole point, A Tale of Three Boards, is about how comfortable we get and resist innovation. We resist change. We resist growth. The only way to discover the limits of the possible is to go beyond them into the impossible. See, if we really understood New Thought, and I mean really understood New Thought, then we would also understand that New Thought is the spiritual path of innovation. Being open at the top and open at the bottom means be innovative. Now, just for the sake of conversation, innovation is the process of turning new ideas, new methods, etc., services, etc., into usable things. Take an idea, change a thing. So telephone, I don't like the way this works. So let's go to how would we be able to do just as a one-hand thing? Oh, how would we be able to, it's innovation is the process of letting new ideas be birthed into creation. And this shows up in a lot of places, ways that impact business, education, the arts, technology, medicine, etc. There's product innovation, process innovation, right? So there are various types of innovation. And even within there, what is the benefit and the impact? Well, innovation drives progress. It enhances competitiveness. Various needs are met. It improves society. But I'm going to remix this just a smidge. Benefits and impact. Drives progress, fuels productivity, creativity, and purposeful growth and development, enhances inter and intra dependence, which helps people to communicate, collaborate, and cooperate with one another for the good of all. Needs are met, satisfies unarticulated or existing human and planetary needs, improves society, leads to social advancements and better ways of living in harmony. Innovation. Now, in terms of this innovation, what is innovative new thought? What does that mean? How do we do the same thing we were just talking about, the benefits and impacts, through new thought, if new thought is actually a spirituality and a path of innovation? Well, this is precisely one of the things, or one of the reasons why I said, for myself at least, I'm working on Science of Mind and Spirit 4.0 and beyond. How can I help to further what it means to engage in innovative new thought? And we will be discussing more of this as time goes on, but they always say time changes things, but you actually have to change them yourself. Time doesn't change it, you do. You don't manage time, you manage yourself and your activities during a certain period of time. So how are we managing ourselves, and how are we being the agents of change? Vulnerability is the birthplace of innovation, creativity, and change. A lot of us don't like vulnerability, though. We really don't like vulnerability. But we're going to remix nonetheless. Are you ready? Nice cape. Vulnerability is the birthplace of being open at the top and bottom and ever evolving. In order to truly be open at the top and open at the bottom and ever evolving, we must be willing to be vulnerable. Vulnerable does not mean weak. It means being authentic and being transparent. Are we willing to be transparent and authentic in order for that to be the birthplace of what it means to be innovative new thought? Because if we are, then what we will do is we will challenge our limits. We will break through and beyond our comfort zones, and we will move beyond the normal, the ordinary, and the standard. Just because it's been done that way in the past does not mean it needs to continue to be that way. For example, do you know who this symbol connects with? Did I freeze for a minute? I think I did. Who does this symbol connect to? Right, Superman and others in that family. Kara-El, Jor-El. Yes. But which Superman? Is it that Superman? Is it that Superman? Is it that Superman? Which Superman? Well, what about Wonder Woman? Which Wonder Woman is Wonder Woman? Now, the reason I ask this is because there are many in the fandom world who are quick to say yay or nay on a particular character or actor portraying a role. They will yay or nay, a reboot of or a new version of, say, Star Trek. They will yay or nay, a movie like Sinners because they didn't understand it, or it's not like a regular vampire movie. There was nothing spooky about it or whatever. I got you. I understand the concept. However, do you realize that it is precisely your comfort that is causing you to be addicted to one particular version versus another? And the reason I say this is because there are some people who, how do I want to say it? They become violently obsessive about, where I've witnessed internet interactions where people were threatening other people's mothers and dogs. Like, if you keep saying that Henry Cavill ain't the real Superman, then wait, what? Now, granted, you may have a preference. You may say, well, Christopher Reeve will forever be. But I am also open to, I'm not going to not watch another actor portray Superman simply because. I mean, what? That's like saying, well, Jim Lee used to draw this character in the comic books, but now some other artist is drawing him. So I don't know. I'm not going to. What? The character is still the character, in essence. So challenge the status quo, not just in that, but in all of the ways that we live. Challenge the status quo. We are not bound by precedent. We're not bound by the status quo, but we are bound by principle. So look at our habits. Look at the things that we repeat. Look at what is unconscious and driving and steering the ship. Look at all the things that we claim are legitimate and how these legitimacies and habits or whatever translate into laws. And then we enforce these laws. Jim Crow segregation was a legitimate legal entity whereby people of my skin color were breaking the law for drinking at that water fountain simply because of the color of my skin, or sitting at the counter there versus. Do we understand how the consciousness created and crafted any of this stuff? Do we understand how the consciousness of today is crafting and creating or furthering still today? Human beings are creatures of habit. As we humans act in repetitious ways, necessitated by circumstances relating to survival, these repetitions become habitual. These habitual behaviors soon become socially acceptable ways of behaving. They are socially agreed upon. And yet, after a while, these socially agreed upon habitual ways of becoming then become what sociologists refer to as legitimized. And after being legitimized for a certain period of time, they then become unconscious. The unconscious legitimizations gradually evolve into laws of reality. We no longer question them. We simply accept them. They are predictable. They ensure our security and safety. And if someone tries to challenge them or change them, we get very upset. Removing Confederate statues. Who got upset? Why'd they get upset? Bringing DEI into college education. Who got upset? Why'd they get upset? Women getting the right to vote. Who got upset? Why'd they get upset? Are we willing to challenge these habits, challenge these behaviors, challenge these laws and legitimizations in order to evolve? Oh, no, no, you're not. No, no. Many refuse to question. We cannot deconstruct, we cannot change what we do not question. We cannot transform what we will not allow ourselves to change. We cannot heal what we will not address. If there is no challenge of the status quo, there is no change. Transformation becomes inevitable only when the status quo is successfully challenged by newness, novelty, and truth. Otherwise, it is simply a new version of the golden calf that no one is allowed to touch. Speaking of golden calves, have you ever noticed how we have turned Dr. Holmes into a golden calf, or the Science of Mind textbook into a golden calf? There are folks in Unity who do the same thing with Charles and Myrtle Fillmore. If we do not challenge, we do not change. If we do not change, we do not evolve. If we do not evolve, we cannot create a world that works for all. Okay, so you don't want this. That's cool. It's a good thing you got a chef who can cook for you. However, if you don't want that, what do you want? You don't know. So if you don't know, he never knows what he wants, only what he doesn't want. Isn't it funny that so many of us actually are in the same place? We don't know what we want. We cannot articulate what we actually want, but we can tell you all the things we don't want. Change is not popular because we are creatures of habit as human beings. I want it to be the way that it was. But if you continue the way it was, there will be no is. In order to transform, we must challenge, we must change. That's why during the whole COVID thing, when people were saying, we want to just get back to normal. And then it clicked in. Because of this, there is no normal. There's no new normal. The new normal is whatever. We cannot go back to the way that it was. After having gone through all of this, we can't go back. And it shifted something in the collective consciousness about we try to reclaim yesteryear in many ways. Think about Make America Great Again. It's built upon the idea of keeping the status quo alive for those who want it to be the way that it was. I want it to be the way that it was, where they worked in the fields, they stayed home barefoot, pregnant, and in the kitchen. They knew their place. I want it the way that it was. There is no going back. Evolution is forward. But in order for that forward impulse to move, we have to be the ones who move it. So these two guys doing construction, sit down for lunch, and the one guy is complaining about how much he can't stand ham and cheese sandwiches, to which his friend says, if you don't like your lunch, why don't you tell your wife to make you something different? The guy chuckles and says, I make my own lunch. Meow, 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 meow. Meow. Translation: then why don't you make something you like? Why do you keep doing what you don't like? What? Isn't it funny though? Many of us do the exact same thing using different things, but we repeat. We don't like change. So in Pittsburgh, where I grew up, there were these two churches, the Pentecostal Temple Church and St. Peter and Paul's Church. And at one point, there was this conversation about who was going to buy whose property and expand the church and all this stuff. There's a bunch of stuff. And it was at this time when I was first exposed to the idea of how much people don't like change. Because just the idea of moving, and you see how close these are. It's not even literally across the street, but the idea of moving a location or the potential moving of a location or merging of a location made a lot of people mad. And people actually left the church, specifically left the Pentecostal Temple Church, went and found a different church. But why? Because research indicates that when churches relocate, even a location such as just across the street, a portion of the congregation may stop attending due to a resistance to change, a disruption of comfortable routines, the loss of familiarity, and the convenience of the previous established routine. Now, experts emphasize that people don't necessarily resist change, they resist loss. The loss of a familiar seat, the loss of an old view, the loss of the previous or more comfortable atmosphere, the loss of the way it was. It's that they're actually resisting. They don't mind change as long as change is keeping things the way that things were. We generally seem to resist change, even when the change is better for us. We also appear to resist being what we really are. We need to learn carefully and surely to permit ourselves to accept the fuller expression of the mind that is within us. We find ourselves secure, for we know that we are a part of that which causes change, but is never affected by any of the changes. We find ourselves secure. We find ourselves safe. We find ourselves liberated by knowing that we are an expression of that which causes change, but it itself is never affected by those changes. The absolute is always the absolute. No matter what Ray does, Ray's experience within the relative changes, but that doesn't make the absolute any less absolute. Am I secure in that knowing? One of the essential tools of faith is imagination. Every journey into the unknown requires imagination. The ability to see things that are not yet visible or manifest. Vision it, envision it, and then express it. Remix. Nice boots. A few of the essential tools of innovation, creation, evolution, and transformation are imagination, trust, faith, and action. Every journey into the unknown requires all three in order to see things that are not yet visible or manifest and to make them so. To what degree are imagination, trust, and action being employed by any of us? There are going to be changes in our lives from hour to hour and day to day, and we cannot escape them. That is the nature of the universe. Let us accept change, make the most of it, and capitalize on it. The action of the law never changes, but the direction of the action is always up to us individually and collectively. Life can become a glorious adventure, increasingly filled with more of every good thing as we gradually or suddenly come to change our pattern of thinking so that it embraces more of those good things. As we change our mental equivalents individually, collectively, it changes our experience individually and collectively. As we reconnect with this core tenet of Science of Mind and Spirit 4.0, we are invited and encouraged to remember that we will not and cannot know everything. There will always be more unknown than known. I know that's uncomfortable for a lot of folks. It used to be uncomfortable for me. I wanted to know everything. There will always be more unknown than there will be known. There's far too much, and none of us will know everything. Get comfortable with this fact. Once we acknowledge this fact, we can more effectively deconstruct, reconstruct, create, recreate, evolve, transform, heal, and innovate in ways that truly change the course of human history and existence in powerful and life-affirming ways. Meaning, we can create a world that truly does work for all. Once we acknowledge the fact that we will not know, cannot know everything, and we begin to capitalize upon change and move with it and understand this is what is, this is what was, this is what could be, and forever surf and navigate all of these changes, then we can effectively deconstruct this, reconstruct this, create or recreate this or that, heal and transform, create a world that works for all. Breathe. This week's affirmation, our declaration, I will say it first, and if it resonates with you, I invite you to say it with me the second time. I explain what I can, and beyond that, I trust the mystery, and I surf the seas of the unknown, all that is. Together. I explain what I can, and beyond that, I trust the mystery, and I surf the seas of the unknown, all that is. And so it is. This week's Everything is Practice, our questions for personal reflection, journaling, conversation. How often am I silent when I should speak? And how often do I speak when I should be silent? When am I most uncomfortable with the unknown? What are some changes or types of changes that I am uncomfortable with and may sometimes avoid? Quick pause. I've known people who were so comfortable with like the color of the walls in their house, they couldn't even fathom the possibility of a new color. So instead of the walls being, whatever, dark green, well, what if you went with like a medium blue? What? No. Well, what about a lighter green? No. What about just a smidge lighter than what it? No. It's got to stay just the way it is. Number 4, in what ways can I develop greater trust of the unknown? Number 5, what is my practice regarding innovation? How do I ensure and maintain being open at the top and open at the bottom? And number 6, in what ways do I engage in eisegesis? And how could I benefit from melting the sacred golden calves and engaging in more exegesis? No, I'm not going to tell you what eisegesis means or exegesis. I'm going to leave that up to you. Because if you're really curious, you'll look it up and see how it applies. And if you're comfortable with the not knowing and just, then you won't look it up. And if you don't look it up, then you can't apply number 6. Breathe. Breathe as we enter into that space of, it's not prayer time yet, Ray. It's time for another question. Time for another practice. My bad. You're right. This week, choose one way to lean into the silence. Set aside a few moments each day to turn off all external noise. Turn off the TV, no phone, no conversation. Just be in a space and simply listen. Simply be. And notice what stirs within you when you are not rushing to fill the space with noise and activity. When you meet with others, practice leaving room for silence. Trust that the mystery beyond words is not empty. It's alive, it's speaking, and it's waiting to be heard. For example, there are times when in a conversation, there's that awkward silence or that awkward pause, and people rush to fill. There's got to be something. Just let it be. Now, after you have done this, then have a conversation with someone about what you felt or what you noticed or, whatever came up. And with that, we now enter into the space of prayer. Simply being with and as this breath, knowing that it is the all that is, living, moving, and having its beingness right here and right now as all of us. This infinite power and presence that knows itself, is present with itself as itself. And that we are invited to know ourselves fully. Who we are, who am I, what am I? What motivates me? What inspires me? What brings me joy and happiness? What is healing for me? What is transformative for me? So rather than trying to understand or force an understanding of the infinite, let me understand the infinite as me. This is why Pythagoras said, the more you understand, the more you know yourself, the more you will know and understand both the universe and God. The more I understand myself, the more I know who and what I am, how I am, the more I understand the universe and God as this expresses in, through, and as me. Because to know one is to know all. Because the all is all that there is. The one, the infinite one, is all that there is. So clearly, by knowing myself, understanding myself, then I am knowing and understanding it as well. And so my call is to move into the space of discomfort, the space of change, the space of evolution, the space of disruption. Because in order to do this, in order to build a new building, we must break ground. If an old building stands in that space, that old building must be torn down, deconstructed, demolished, and removed in order for the new building to then take its place. What thoughts and paradigms and beliefs are being invited to be deconstructed and demolished and removed so that a new thought, a new consciousness, a new system of healing and belief, mental equivalence, can take its place. So as I breathe into this prayer, as I breathe into this knowing, I know that this is already the process that is taking place. I am simply stating the obvious. I am simply declaring what I know to be true. This is already the process of evolution and change that is occurring right now. Occurring both within me as my thoughts, my feelings, but also externally to me as the way that I show up and live, as the way that my voice expresses outwardly, as the way that I show up in interactions and relationships, as the way that I show up as spiritual director for SIA. This change, this evolution, this healing is already taking place. And it continues to do so because I continue to do so. And as I continue to do so, that which the is continues to do so as me. And knowing that the law is always in motion and receiving and saying yes and doing what it does, I know that this treatment, this prayer, this Sunday message is already manifesting accordingly. In other words, the prayer is already answered. The amen is already in motion. And so I stand back and do what is mine to do and marvel at the magnificent way that imagination and innovation and creativity and faith manifest a world that works for all. Breathe. And so it is. And so it is. Blessings, much joy, love, peace, appreciation, all that good stuff to you. Have an amazing week, and I will see you as we close out the month of February next week. Blessings, be well.